everyone can see my screen now. Yes? I'm going to delete everything in here. Cool. All right. So I have a server, right? I think all of you guys are getting this part fairly well, right? We're saying require express. I'm going to create my express object under app. I'm going to make a connection to MySQL, and I called mine pool because I was using create pool instead of create connection, but they're the same sort of thing, and I was hoping to talk about the differences tonight, but I'll change this back to connection. That's kind of what you guys are doing. And if you guys are curious, right, I get all of this code directly from NPM. So I go to npm.js, and I say, how do I use MySQL2? If I could type MySQL2, and I click on it, right, like these are the examples, right? Require, create connection, I'm doing that. And then I'm running connection.query, right? So Josh, I would have this page up for every second that you're writing code, right? It's going to show you a bunch of these examples, right? The first thing that is the first argument to connection query is the SQL that you're passing in. It's a string. Then the second argument is the callback function. What code runs when this query comes back with data, okay? And for sake of just kind of showing this off, I was a little bit further down. This is a connection pool, right? It's going to make a bunch of connections to the database and then use whichever one is available, right? So this is what we probably want to use for more well-used websites. It's the same type of functionality, but we get a couple extra configuration options, but it works the same way. Query goes first, callback function goes second. Okay, same sort of concept. And if you wanted to, you could read the information about it. Okay. All right, so I'll leave this page up, right? This should not do anything because I don't have any handlers written, but just for the sake of argument, like just what I would normally do at this stage, I would maybe say app.get, it's gonna be the slash route, like what happens if I just go to this address, right? And then it takes a callback of a request, response, and then in here is the callback of all the code that executes when someone visits my page, okay? So just to make sure that we're working, I might start off by saying res.send hello world, something like that. My code reloads. Let's see, create connection, okay? What do we got here? MySQL.create connection. Typo it? Yes. Okay, good. So now if I go to this, right, hello world sends. Now we were talking about we want to use EJS. So I built all of my page to be just an HTML page inside the views folder called index.ejs. For me, this is like a single page application. I just need one page. I don't need anything fancy or complex. But what I did is it's got a style sheet. It's got some client-side front-end JavaScript, which we'll look at in a second. Then it has a form. And then this is kind of the magic. So I'm going to take this all out so that it does not break our code. And hopefully this will work. And so what I'm going to do to make this pop up, I'm going to say res.render index, and that should, okay, so when we're going to use EJS, we have to do a few things from a structure standpoint. So this is what I've been talking about for the last couple days, right? The first thing we want to do is serve public files, static files, right? So I have a CSS file here, I have a JavaScript file here. I want to be able to serve these, and so I'm going to tell Express app.use express.static, and I'm going to give it the name of that folder. I'm going to say this folder is called public. Okay, so this tells Express, hey, if you get a request for CSS wall.css, right, serve that program. If I don't have this line of code in here, and I make this, it says cannot get because we haven't defined a route for that. So app.use with express static says if a file exists in this folder, send it back. So we're going to do that. That's configuration item number 1. Okay. The next thing we need to do is we need to tell it we want to use EJS. So to do that, we're going to say app.set view engine EJS. Okay, and so now when I go to slash, okay, yeah, so I didn't comment this out in a way that EJS likes. So let's do this. Cool. And I'll just take this whole thing out so that we can. Just focus on making sure things work. Okay, so I took out that code, right? So this is kind of like the first thing I built. I built like, I gave it some background colors, I gave it a little bit of style. I didn't spend too much time on it, but it's got a box for my name, a box for my message, and a box to post into. So that's good. So I'm gonna put all this code back so I don't lose it accidentally. So now I'm in here, right? When I get my slash, I need to, right? I want to render index. I want to render that template, but I want to first get all of my records from the database. Okay, then render the page. Right? I have to get it from the database first. So I'm going to say connection.query, and I'm going to say select ID user message DTG from wall, right? Because this is my database. I created it. Right, so it's the same as saying, oh, I didn't mean to click create table. Get out of here. Don't save. So if I go here and I say select rows, right, I'm selecting ID user message DTG from the wall table. Okay, so that's what I'm running. It's going to give me back anything that's in here. So that's my query. My second argument is my callback function. So that gives you error and results. Results is going to have all of the results in it that I want. Okay, and then I'm going to, right in here, once the results come back, that's where I'm actually going to do my res render index. Right? So once the data comes back, that's where we're going to want to do it. Okay? So we can't display the page until after we get that query from the database. So now results has all that information. If I wanted to, I can just make sure console.log results, right? I can load this page. It's giving me an error because I'm not passing it. Let's do this real quick. Messages, results. Right. When I'm loading this, assuming that I didn't have my template already written to do everything correctly, right? Like I can console log here and view my results. This is exactly what's coming out of my database. That's the output of my query. Okay. Res render takes an argument. After this is the file that we're loading from the views folder, and what comes next is an object with the values that we're going to pass into that template. So I already wrote this code, but what I'm doing here is I'm saying, hey, the messages, right? I want to be available. I want to take all these results and make them available to my template as messages. So in this page, right, I'm saying at the very beginning, the first time I look at this, I say messages.length. If there's a value in here, question mark, right, we're going to display it. Otherwise, we're putting nothing, right? And that's what's telling us 9 messages. Messages.length, messages. Then we're saying if messages.length, right, I create an ordered list tag. Then I'm saying if there's messages, loop through it, right? I do just a EJS less than tag %. That gets me into some code, right? I'm not doing the dash outputs. This just runs the code. And so I'm saying if messages.length, yes, great, for, and I'm going to loop through that messages object that is coming straight from here. Loop through this. Okay. Then we're displaying, this ends the tag, right? So these two lines of code run. Then it goes back to HTML. I'm outputting a list item, and I'm saying strong, the user object, right? User, so it's going to say Eric for this one, wrote, and I put a div in here, div class message, and I say the message test in this case, and then that ends our loop, and that ends our if block, right? You see that, like if messages.length is 0, that'll be false. So if it's false, then I have like a little cutesy message here, right? And so if I was to come in here and delete everything from this table, truncate wall message wall, that's going to delete all of the all of the elements in there, right? If I load this, it gives me one single element that has a cutesy little message. Okay? So that handles the display. Now, when if you look at this form, this form is saying, hey, send a post request to the slash. So just send a post back to the same route we're at right now. And it's got three things. It's got an input text username, which if I take all this out of here, right, it says your nickname is the placeholder. Then it's got your message. If I type Eric in here, I type a message, some test message, right? When I post to this, right, we don't have a route right now. Cannot post to slash. So we have to write that. Test message. And the way we do that is the exact same way we write a get. So I'm going to say app.post slash. That's the route we're posting to. Rec res. Okay. And now I want to do kind of the same thing. I want to insert this record into the database and then render the index page, right? And so I could do connection.query insert into wall, and then we put in, after we say insert into the table name, we put in these are the columns I'm going to insert into, and I'm going to say user, comma message, values, question mark, question mark. Does anyone remember why we use question marks here? It's for security reasons. So everything that is typed in here is user input. We never, ever, ever want to trust user input with our database. Okay, and so the way we do this in MySQL is we use prepared statements. And what it means is anywhere we want to send user input into our database, we're going to put a question mark here. And then we're going to pass it in as the second argument. So like user message, right? So that these values, what's happening behind the scenes is the library is smart enough to know that when I'm using question marks here, I'm going to first escape the variables here so that a user can't go in and put in, like a semicolon select password from user list, right? That would be called SQL injection. So we want to prevent that by using placeholders. And I've got to type values correctly as well. So I'm insert into wall, user message, values, question mark, question mark. And whatever we put as the second argument here is going to be the values that we're sending in to this element, into this query. So how do I get them? They're inside the request object. It's request.body.user and request.body.message. Right? Whatever the name is in your input element, user and message, is going to be the name that it is inside of request.body. Okay? And the way we get this turned on, we have to do another little express specific thing. We have to come in here and say app.use express.url encoded, right? And that tells us we're going to get some information from a form. I want you to URL encode it so that we can use it in our page. So URL encoding it means that like it takes spaces and turns them into %20s, and it just makes sure that the data being transferred over HTTP is in a format that our Express engine can handle. And then we're going to put in extended equals true. Right? So just get used to these 3 lines of code, because you're going to need them for just about every Express app you build, especially when you're using EJS. If you're not using EJS, you won't put this in, but for the most part, you'll always have at least these 2, or whatever you decide to name your folder. I could rename this folder static files, right? Now that folder is called static files. If I was to, why is it static files? What the heck? Come on, you. Man, it's going crazy. Never seen it do this before. Let's see what it looks like in our thing here. I'm gonna close this because it should not take this long to. Right. I'm gonna rename this folder here, static files. Cool. And then I'm gonna open this with code. Right to where we were at before. So now that folder is called static files, right? I would put static files in here. whatever you put in as express.static is the name of the folder to serve files from. Okay, so now we're set up. We're inserting into the wall table user and message values, question mark, placeholders. And we're saying rec.body.user, rec.body.message. Those are the two variables we want to insert into the database. Okay. Then the third argument, when we're inserting, when we got placeholders here, is I'm going to say error results. Okay. And that's a callback function, right? Inside the callback function. And from here, it's the same as up here, right? We want to render our page. So we can do this one of two ways, right? If we call res_render right now, index.ejs is expecting to get a messages object with all of our information. So I could write this. I can go like this. Right? When I'm inside this callback, I can query the database to get all the new elements and then call res_render. This would work. Right? So if I type test message now. Oh, I need to start my server, huh? npm run dev. Good. No, let's go back to the page. Eric, test message, post. So that works. But Express gives us something really cool that saves us a little bit of time and a little bit of energy, right? I already have a route that displays my pages. So instead of querying the database a second time to get those messages, I can simply say res.redirect and go to /. So all this is going to do is it's going to say when this insertion is finished, when we inserted the record in the table, and everything is good, when we're inside the results here, just go to this other path. It's like saying to the browser, refresh at this new location. So when we run this now, I put in something else, right? Post. It's taking me back to the / route. Okay, now I got a little fancy here in that I said, hey, it would be really nice if when I type in my name like Joe Biden, I'm the president now. I am the president. Okay, I click post. The next time this page loads, right, Joe Biden stays in there. I did that with local storage. This is like the perfect use for something like that. And so what I did was I have an index in this project on index.js. I'm calling this JavaScript front end library, and I renamed it. So I gotta good. Oh, that's why it was breaking. So inside this folder, right, I'm adding 2 event listeners. I'm saying when the value of user, this user element changes, store it in local storage. Then I'm saying when the page loads, set the value from local storage. So literally every time I change my name in here, whatever, right? Now my name will always be whatever. It's storing it forever. And I'm going to hit reload, right? I'm reloading all the time. It's pulling it out of local storage. Okay. Pretty neat. It like took just a few lines of code in the front end to just make it a little bit more usable. And then you'll also notice that I'm saying if there's no value in local storage, I want to make that be the element that the cursor goes on. So the first time you load this page, if we have nothing in here, right? When I reload, oh, I gotta save it first. Right? You'll notice that my cursor is automatically in my nickname field. So I say Eric, and then I go to the next message and I say hello world, right? And I post. Okay. You'll notice that now because there's a value in here, it's focused on this element. So I can just go type 2, type 3. Right? So this, we're building like a message wall here, but if you can like visualize this in your head, what does this kind of resemble? Or what could it be?
Like comments?
Yeah, it could be like comments, but we've essentially created a chat system. Right? Right now it's going from oldest to newest, but what if I like reverted this around? So instead of select in this direction, I say order by ID and descend. Now if I load this page, a chat system. Look at me. Hello. Right? All I gotta do is type a message. This is a message. Hit enter, and the message shows up. And if anyone else was on this page, they would put in a different name. I am Olivia. Hi, Eric. Right? Now we're chatting. Not much to it. What did this take me? Like 20 something lines of code? If you take out all the comments, to build kind of a prototype of a chat system or a message board. Right? We used to call these like graffiti walls. People would come in and be like, I'm going to sign your guest book. But we made it a little fancy. Does anyone have any questions about this structure specifically? Like, we're writing our routes. You'll notice I don't have any HTML files in my static files folder. I don't have any HTML in here. I'm relying 100% on index.ejs. So I'm loading this, every page, right? The one page we have is being rendered from EJS. And it's just HTML, but with a little bit of JavaScript. Inside here as a template. We're saying, hey, if there are messages, 12 messages, right? If there's messages.length, this is all just native JavaScript. You guys should be pretty familiar with this. The only thing that's new here, the only monkey wrench we're introducing, is we've got these special tags that tell EJS like, hey, I see that this is an EJS tag. I'm gonna process the next little bit until we get to a closing tag as JavaScript, and we do that either by echoing out to the page, or in this case I'm escaping HTML here so that we can't type in script alert hello. Right? We don't want that to execute. So I am not trusting the user input at all. But if I had changed this to a minus, right, now this page is going to alert every time we go in there, and you won't see even who wrote something. Any questions? Now that you've seen how the magic happens, you guys want to try and finish up your version of this app before we end tonight? You think you can get it done? It's really just two routes, right? A post route and a get route. Would it help if I left this code up for you guys to see it or posted it to GitHub? Okay. Now this is at this address, which I will paste into chat. You'll have something you can kind of reference. Even if for no other reason, to get the muscle memory of typing these things out, like app.get, app.post, connection.query, like you're going to use that over and over and over and over again. Okay? It's 6:47. I'm going to check in on you at 7:30. I expect to see 3